Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me here, joining me, not by myself anymore. I was all alone for the last couple of these things. Of course, got one out even while on vacation and working on my tan, man. Brian, anything fun and exciting going on? I know the last time we spoke to you, you were in country music heaven, pretty much.
Hell, country music hell. Why would you bring that up? That's like that word that you shouldn't be using anymore. No, I'm no longer in Nashville, thank heavens. I got to go climb a mountain on Monday. It's very exciting. It's good stuff.
I'm excited. I'm waiting for The Mandalorian, the new season to come out. Someone commented on the last show. They were like, "Hey, you're moving away from the mic." And what they don't understand is what I got in front of me, Brian. I got like two screens. I got little screens. I got coffee I reach for. When I'm by myself, it's very difficult to just continue leaning in. So I will try and correct that bad habit. I apologize if that came out wrong.
Well, yeah. Speaking of comments, somebody had asked, they wanted to know how many of the helmets are signed. The answer is all of them.
As if that was going to be my guess. And how many things do I have signed that are up here? Well, I have the kicker ball somewhere up here, so there's two signatures on that so far, but nothing else on my wall. I've got other things and stuff that I need to. I got signed stuff. I don't have it up anywhere. So
here, I'll give you a quick tour over here.
Nice.
So you can see. Here's the thing: as many as I've got up. There are that many more sitting back there that I don't have any place to put them right now.
You ran out of budget to go to Hobby Lobby and get the cases or whatever.
No, dude, I ran out of wall.
Oh,
I ran out of wall.
We got to build you a man cave or a she shed or something to put those things in.
Well, not that we don't have other important things to talk about, but my wife is in this mode of finding our next home.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So she's on Trulia and Zillow and all these things, just looking at
estimates, houses
all over the place. And there was one in West Virginia. Not that I really want to move to West Virginia, but at least it was just rural. It was kind of in the mountains. That was like 5,500 square foot, huge house. Wow. And I was like, there you go. Now I got enough room for all my crap.
Was that did that have a basement too, or no?
No, it had a big full ground in pool, and then it had a 4-car garage, and above the 4-car garage was unfinished space that I could have turned into an office.
Like a loft.
There was other places. Yeah, there's other places in there. It would have been great. I would have had enough room for all the helmets because I think I have 62 full-size helmets.
Wow.
All of which are signed by at least one. Some of them, like the linebacker helmet up there, are signed by a lot of people. But anyway, the point is, when I said this, as she's looking, I only have just one thing that I care about. I have to have an office big enough so that I don't have all that stuff in the closet, so to speak.
Well, it's kind of like my current digs. If people happen to recall, there was a point in time where we didn't do video at all, like you did. Because you had very pretty surroundings, but I didn't in the previous home, and then I'd moved, and then we were in like a town home, and I had the Permante's or Applebee's style brick wall behind me for a little while to obscure some things, and I finally got my surroundings. That's why I can't go like wild. Like, I was just down at Disney, and it's like, oh man, they're doing the art festival thing, and they got all these canvases and frame stuff that I really can't afford, but the few cool things I see, even when they're like the reprints, reproductions, it's like, where the hell am I going to put that? So it's like, that's, you know, we've had internal sayings we say with like our business doings and stuff here with the SEU stuff, but the one I have in my personal life is, where the hell am I going to put that? What am I going to do with that thing? And there's like literally there's nothing that I can do. I'm looking right now. I've got a out of time California license plate from Back to the Future, and I'm like, it's just sitting there on the bookshelf. Because it's like, okay, now I'm going to I got to do some other things. I don't have anything that it could go with. But linebacker's helmet, that's okay. We got a quick news item. Not a whole lot of news going on, but Aaron Curry coming over from the Seahawks after 4 seasons with Pete Carroll, and he is going to be a linebackers coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers now. Jerry Osavsky is moving on after 25 years or something like that. It's something ridiculous.
22, but I could be wrong.
Played for Cowher, right? And then coached a little bit, I think, with Cowher as well. And he's a Youngstown guy, so a little bit of homage there. And kind of when you talk about Youngstown, Ohio, I don't know. I don't want to say anything disparaging, but there aren't a whole lot of famous people. There are. A lot of them are mobsters, but
there you go.
Yeah, but you know, it's from Youngstown, went to Pitt, very much hometown type guy, right? And as a player, I was looking it up, Steelers 89 to 97, so he was around with Noel too. One of Noel's last draft classes there, so he was a guy that was inherited by Cowher via Noel, and then he was coaching a little bit with Youngstown State, and then from 2010. So he's 2003 to 2009 Youngstown State linebackers coach, then a defensive assistant 2010 to 2014, took over as inside linebackers coach with the Steelers from 2015 to 2022. And I didn't realize this. This is kind of a neat, interesting tidbit, but he was the Pro Football Writers Association all-rookie team in 1989. I don't think I was ever aware of that, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe that's indicative of changes the Steelers want to make internally with the way they operate their coaching staff. I know everybody's freaking out because Brian Flores left, linebackers type coach. Osavsky's gone, Butler's gone. Now what? Jerry Porter didn't work out before that, so we'll see. We'll see what Curry brings to the table, and we'll see if any of this is like a byproduct of, you know, something we're talking about today is free agents, but some guys that are leaving or presumed to be leaving, such as Devin Bush, maybe not living up to the bill, and some of that's coaching. You know what I mean? That was happening, I think, with Bud Dupree and Joey Porter several years ago too, and they made a move, and then all of a sudden Bud Dupree was lighting the world on fire. So we'll see if anybody ends up getting signed that's going to replace Devin Bush. We've got some speculation. We got some of that coming up as we get back to a little bit of a regular schedule, and then everything goes right in the crapper when we run out of news. So, but we'll have free agency right around the corner here and some cool stuff to talk about. But not every time the Steelers dip their toe into the free agency pool do things work out. And they don't often, Brian. A lot of people don't understand that they don't spend money. Why don't they spend money? Because for the longest time, they didn't have money. They had high dollars invested either into quarterback position, Ben Roethlisberger, or they're paying guys that they drafted themselves. Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt was a top 5 paid guy at one point. TJ Watt, of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they invest their money into retaining their own players. They don't usually go for broke by going after the flashy toy, so to speak. Like, you're looking at a home out in West Virginia with like a 4-car garage. God knows what that probably costs with the in-ground pool and whatnot. And the estimates are always off, by the way. Going through all this. Yeah, it's like my place is already skyrocketed, like almost doubled according to his estimate, because the real estate market is was ridiculous. Might be cooling off now, but inflation, etc. So be careful out there, my friend. But West Virginia is a pretty nice tech corridor, and you'd be closer to, well, depending on where you are in West Virginia, you might be closer to Acrisure. So that might work out for you.
It was the exact same distance, because actually this place was, I don't know, like 25 minutes from DC. It was almost the exact same length drive.
I understand. West Virginia's goofy because it's like you got the little panhandle, then you got the other little like the T-Rex arms that come off of it.
Down in its big old butt or whatever it is down there at the bottom of it.
Well, if there ever was a butthole of the country, it would be Washington, D.C., I have a feeling. So, anyways, no offense to anybody who lives there. It's all the other part-timers who make their time there in certain places on certain hills and whatnot. But anyways, as we move along, I'm sure you've got some ideas. Well, part of this is there's probably only one person on this list that we're going to bring up that was actually like a big signing that they actually gave a lot of money to. And then there's some guys that they brought along that were okay signings. They weren't like, you were never expecting them to be anything major when they were brought along or brought onto the team. And I think that's something that needs to be distinguished here. It's kind of like last season you had Levi Wallace. You're expecting a lot out of Levi Wallace. You bring him in and he's going to be a starter, but what level of starter here? He's not on a Minka or a TJ Watt type of level or type of deal, nor can you pay very many people that amount of money. So that's the reason why the Steelers usually don't throw that money out there, because they get ahead of it, they draft well, and then they retain their own players. The other teams are, they're like the Jets and stuff like that. They're constantly wiping the slate clean, starting over. They're getting rid of certain veterans or guys that were former first-round picks because the new regime that comes in wants a new offensive scheme, a new defensive scheme, and it doesn't work out or for whatever reason. Or you got the opposite. You got like the guys like Bud Dupree that can't be kept. And that happens with the Ravens, too, and some other well-run organizations. C.J. Mosley.
It may be happening very soon with the Ravens.
Oh, very, very, very soon. Is there really any new news on that? I love how, they hired, a new offensive coordinator, and it was supposedly news.
Dude.
That was supposedly news that he didn't talk to Lamar Jackson yet after, just being on the job 2 days. And maybe he does it.
How many times can they spin out the exact same story from the same 4-line quote and read more into it? And it's just absurd. But I'm going to say the same thing. Hey, go ahead. Give him $250 million guaranteed. Please do it. Just do it, please.
Yeah. And why do we like that? Give him the Deshaun Watson contract. So you got to make tough decisions. Look,
even better.
Even the Titans, what are the Titans doing? They have to cut all these guys to make space. The Saints are still in extreme cap hell. There are just some teams with some real bad financial situations. I hate to see what the Rams are going to continue to look like into the near future, too.
Bobby Wagner! Stop Bobby Wagner now!
That Jalen Ramsey contract, and people are saying, oh, trade for Ramsey. It's the guy's a 20-some mil a year guy. They need, but there's so much dead money tied into that they get no return on that unless they get a buttload of picks for, how old is he now? 28 years old or something like that. Not to say he's not a great player. I'll say great. I think he's, for at least active players, you know what I mean? Great. I'm not saying all-time great. He might still have a couple of years to go when it comes to saying that. But speaking of, Terrell Rivas getting into the Hall of Fame too. We hadn't talked, I think, since that, so that was kind of neat. First, a lot of first ballot guys on that Hall of Fame thing. We'll table that for another time. But anyways, Steelers going after guys, bigger contracts, disappointments. Let's name the first one off the list. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Ladarius Green. Why is he the worst though? I have a love-hate with it. Huh?
Here's why. It's because it was a tease, right? You saw him and it was whoa, look, this guy's big, he's fast, he's gonna be like a unstoppable wide receiver type guy in the tight end position. It's gonna be dynamic, it's gonna be impressive. No, it's really just never gonna happen.
So why did they go after Ladarius Green? That's the first thing. And Ladarius Green, becomes a free agent, 4 years under a rookie contract with the Chargers, San Diego entirely. Chargers will come up again, and they'll be LA at one point during this conversation too. But playing with legendary Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates, yeah.
So they weren't going to be able to keep both. Is Gates going to still keep playing? Gates was playing forever and still at a high level. The Steelers, however, had lost their high-level guy, Heath Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had to replace Heath Miller, and it wasn't just coming from Jesse James. So 2016, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have it here, what was the amount of money? 4 years, $20 million, which was a pretty, I know all these contracts are super inflated now and through the roof, but then that was a
big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal for a tight end. That's a big deal. So
big deal.
Then he's not practicing. Then he's on the PUP list and has to miss 9 games to start the season. And I don't know, like, and concussions obviously plagued his career, and he finished. He didn't play but the one season in Pittsburgh, which is considered a disappointment because of the money, which I'm not sure the Steelers ate a whole lot on that, but they only got, let me see here, 6 games total did he appear in. I know he had like a 2-point conversion. He had the 1 touchdown, 18 catches, 304 yards. He had a couple he had 1 big game I'll never forget because I had him on my fantasy or my DraftKings or something because I was that bullish on him. But they were mixing him in. Week 9, he comes in, he plays 12 snaps, 8 against the Cowboys, 8 snaps on the road against the Browns, 14 against the Colts, which I think the Colts is the one where it was like, okay, this guy, he might end up doing something. Then all of a sudden he goes off. He catches 6 of 11, 110, and a touchdown against a home win, 24-14 against the Giants. What a brutal schedule here, though. They had 4 out of these 5 straight, 2 on the road, 1 at home, then 2 more on the road. And they won all of them. They won all of them back then, 2016 team. But this is yet another guy, because of his injuries, the concussions, the ankle, whatever was going on. And he passed the physical when they signed him. So I don't understand who didn't do their homework here, but he misses the last 2 games of that year, and then he misses all the playoff games, including the AFC Championship game in New England. And that's one that I think is very important that we always forget about. I always think about Jesse James being one of those targets, and Kobe Hamilton, you bring that up, and Le'Veon Bell gets hurt. But geez, you wonder why with all that talent, why doesn't Mike Tomlin do whatever? We didn't have them. The guys and whose fault is this? I don't know that you could blame anything on anyone. If the guy had his issues with concussions or injuries, I have a lot harder time just calling him flat out like a bust. But the decision didn't work out the way they had hoped, especially 4 years, $20 million. And that's why this one has the big star next to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate signing, right? It was a signing that had a lot of promise, and you can never, anticipate injuries to a certain extent. So the fact that, and you haven't commented, I got my free agent sunglasses on now.
Okay.
I got my free agent Ray-Bans on. So. It's all good.
I wasn't sure why you put those on. I didn't know if the Men in Black thing was coming and you were going to like the Manscaped beard trimmer is coming out and then you like erase my memory, like Tommy Lee Jones.
No, these are my free agent sunglasses because I'm swimming in the free agent money, even though I'm not.
Apparently, because you're trying to swim in some huge in-ground pool in West Virginia.
It wasn't that. The house was not that expensive. That's the whole point.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know. That's why it's a hot place. That's a good place to move. My buddy, I don't want to get on all the real estate stuff, but he's always sending me things, and there's some crazy properties out there. Let's put it that way, and some remote locations. He wants to live like away from everyone on basically the Yellowstone Ranch, and that is going to cost you a fortune.
That's me. I want none of you. I got problems with you people. I don't want none of you anywhere near me. Thank you very much. I love everybody. So that's not really.
I hate everyone. I'm an equal opportunity hater. So
I love individuals and I hate people.
I think the way it's like I hate people, but I love gatherings. Is that how it works? Is that the Clerk's quote?
It is, but I don't love gatherings. I don't like them. I don't want to be in gatherings. I just like individual people. I don't like people as a whole. Anyway,
especially when driving.
Ladarius Green seemed like it was a promise. Had some promise, and it just didn't pan out. It's not really the kind of signing where you go, yeah, they just badly evaluated him. It's the kind of signing that just went sour.
Yeah. You have one that you want to throw up for the group discussion, or should I just continue going down a list?
Let's just go down the list. I don't want to even think about.
Let's see if we can remember who was this number 11. This was pre-Chase Claypool. You may be able to guess.
Lance? Is that Lance?
No, it's not, but he is on the list at some point. This would be Donte Moncrief.
Oh, good God.
Yes. I mean, it's I really don't know if this ball ends up in his hands. If you could see it pictured, it's kind of just sitting there. I had such high hopes for this guy. He looked good at the beginning of camp.
Bring that back up.
I got it. There it is.
Look at his eyes.
It's the
like,
perfect
I'm
photo.
Asleep. He's like, I don't know. You know what that picture makes me think of? I'm gonna tell you what that picture makes me think of.
Sadness.
The peanut butter box is here. The peanut butter box is here.
For the people that can't see it, he's almost holding this up like it's an offering, like maybe in church or something like that. I don't know. He's like, I don't really know what's going on, but that was such a good. But there's not a whole lot of Donte Moncrief photos to choose from, so I'm not going to say it was the best of the picks, but it's the best that was available. There's like 4 pictures of him in the Steelers jersey because he didn't last very long. 6'2".
Man, was he bad?
Oh man, but he didn't look bad in camp. And then all of a sudden we noticed. I remember Flash and I were talking about this. Professor was talking about this, and we're like, this guy looks like he'll be. This was at a time when they were trying to replace some receivers. This was 2019, and Antonio Brown just flew the coop, and Martavis Bryant had already flown the coop before that. And you're like, okay, this is a veteran guy. He just had like an off season in Jacksonville. Maybe his, 89 targets. He only had 48 catches in Jacksonville, but perhaps that's because he had some pretty bad quarterbacks throwing to him on that 2018 team, which would have been Blake Bortles, Cody Kessler, Logan Cook, and I guess D.D. Westbrook had thrown a couple of pass attempts at some point, maybe even just the one. Maybe that one was intended for him too. It wasn't completed, so it's very highly likely. I didn't like the story about ripping on Moncrief because I thought he looked pretty good, but then we're saying he's only catching stuff with one hand. And I don't know if he always wore gloves or not, but he was wearing the gloves. He almost had like the Sammy Coates, Freddy Krueger hand thing going. And that was kind of bizarre. But with the Steelers, let's see, he had 4 receptions on 15 targets. That was for 18 yards, 1 first down catch, no touchdowns. His yards per reception were 4.5. Pretty bad. And you know what else ends up happening in 2019, by the way, is Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt. And you got Mason Rudolph, who's never played before, throwing, and all Butterfingers lets one slip, and that was Mason's first pick. I mean, he may have had 2 throwing towards Moncrief, and it didn't work out. He ended up getting benched pretty solidly. I mean, he played 60 snaps. So this is New England again. They go up and play New England, 2019, couple years after this AFC title game that we just talked about. And they get whooped 33-3, as I think the Patriots were putting up yet another banner that was making me vomit that they even scheduled this game as it was. But he was targeted 10 times in this game and only caught 3 passes for 7 yards with Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback.
He was not good.
Just really bad.
This is one, again, I don't know whether he hurt himself. I don't know whether he didn't hurt himself. But for whatever reason, the analysis on Donte Moncrief, because as you said, looked like in camp, okay, this looks promising. This looks like something. Maybe this guy's gonna tear it up. And then, game time came, and man, talk about a camp phenom, but that just vanished. It was like, oh, the lights are on me. Forget it. I'm done. I can't deal with this.
Yeah, and not only that, he had a fumble too.
Yeah.
In this, he was inactive week 3 that year, 2019. He came back, so he went from 60 offensive snaps, which were offensive, and then he went to 18 inactive, 3 plays inactive, 14 and 15 did not play. Or I'm sorry, the did not play. This would be week 7, and then what happens is there's a business decision that's made, because what happens is the Philadelphia Eagles during the offseason had signed L.J. Fort. You may remember him as an inside linebacker that kind of was in rotation of replacing Ryan Shazier. And the Eagles went and signed him, and they gave him a pretty decent deal, but it didn't work out, and they cut him. And because they cut him before the trade deadline and it wasn't like a full, tenured year NFL season, this factored into the NFL's compensatory pick formula and system, of which the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they lose X amount of free agents but don't sign an equal amount, the scales of balance, they would get anything from a 3rd to 7th round pick compensatory. To give out 32 of those each year. And we don't know the secret recipe, the Colonel's secret recipe entirely of how it works, but you just know that if they hold on to Donte Moncrief, he's considered a priority free agent now at this point, of which the guy isn't playing. So off you go by week 9, buddy. And he ended up with the Carolina Panthers, would play, let's see if I could do the quick back, 25 snaps in 3 games with no receptions or anything whatsoever. He would finish the season 4 catches, 18 yards. Just wow. Not a big dollar signing though, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna look up what dude made, but yeah, that was that's one I think sits pretty bad, and it's real easy to forget about Donte Moncrief too, because he had basically a cup of coffee with the Steelers. Let's see his paycheck. Wow, about 4.3 million. For a veteran receiver, about 6 years in the league, that doesn't seem terrible. It's not real big money,
but it's only terrible in that means he got $1 million per reception.
Oh man, that's pretty rough. Hey Brian, before we go, maybe
put me out there. I'll catch one ball and I'm good.
From Ben, I mean, I know he threw rockets. I think I could definitely get one of those. I'll put the gloves on and I'll get it done. So, yeah. But this is always a good time to mention that the Steel City Underground podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, precision-made tools for your family jewels. And Manscaped now sells beard products, of which I'm still ironing out all the kinks here with the different levels and settings and how you hold the rechargeable beard hedger from the Beard Hedger Pro kit. And I am a big fan of it, though. I've just got to get used to it. It's a lot different than I have one of these little cheap jobbies, like I don't know, whatever. It's a brand name, but it's not a brand name. You go.
Look right there.
Yeah.
Gold striped underpants.
I need the gold striped ones. I need some gold
striped underpants.
I know those things. Seriously, we're talking about the new beard hedger, and the boxers were great. They were great for the 12.
Are the best.
12, 13-hour trip that I was on the road just now, and yeah, absolutely wonderful.
You want to talk about your jewels, your family, your balls will thank you, or whatever the hell the slogan is. You put them gold strappy underpants on, your balls will thank you.
Yeah, they'll thank you. And if you're walking around with them and the missus end up seeing you, or it's a new lady friend you're trying to attract, aside from the other manscaping products, it would do you well. You got to have but you got to maintain the beard too. When she sees you have a maintained beard, and then you have the rest of the Manscaped Pro Performance Kit. And then you take your shirt off and you got the boxers, they have the whole package here. So don't forget that.
Nobody wants to talk about your package.
I wasn't talking about my package. I was talking about a total package here, meaning from head to toe, from my chest pubes down to my ball fro. You're not a Step Brothers guy, but Luscious B.
Hey, thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys next time around.
Hey, we're beyond the taint of the year. So anyways, folks, if you'd like 20% off and free shipping to make your drapes match the carpet or whatever it is, at manscaped.com, use the promo code SteelCity20. It's time to tame your mane. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. You'll also get 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. That's SteelCity20, free shipping, 20% off at manscaped.com. You know what? Let's we'll roll that. I like looking at the bush. Boom. And we got if anyone never watched our YouTube version of this, they'd be like, what are you talking about? It's like an actual shrubbery comes up on screen, and then the trimmer comes over, and zzz, the lawnmower, the weed whacker, they name it all after landscaping stuff that you may or may not be doing depending on where you are in the country. I went from Ohio warm weather to Florida warm weather while it was cold in Ohio, and then came back to Ohio and it was cold. Then it got warm to where I actually grilled yesterday, and now it is cold again, 50 degrees colder than what it was yesterday. I think something like that. Well, 30-ish.
Weather is stupid.
It is. And there's this thing that comes, one of these Cleveland pages puts out a thing. My buddy's always sharing it, and it's full spring, and then it's second winter. It's the 12 seasons of Ohio, but that happens in a couple places.
The Levensies. Where's second breakfast?
Second breakfast or fourth meal. The old Taco Bell commercials. I used to love saying fourth meal. Lots of fourth meals back in my bar hopping days. So getting back on the free agents. Who's another? There's an ass clown I definitely have to mention. I wanted to kind of save him for the end, but let's throw him out there.
What kind of
He's
clown?
An ass clown. LeGarrette Blount.
Oh, yeah, he was an ass clown.
Man, he's among a couple of players that, like, and I said the last decade, so 2014 still fits here, where we haven't had 10 full free agent classes just yet. But this guy, he got signed. Le'Veon Bell, 2013, so he was drafted. 2014, now it's his second year into the season or into the league, and they wanted a lightning and a thunder. They needed a compliment to Bell. I don't know what he ever thought was going to happen. Like, Bell was the bell cow. No pun or intended or not. There wasn't anybody else ever getting the rock. And he pouted. And why would you sign a contract when you know this is going to be your role? You're not coming here to start. And he had already been in a pecking order with the New England Patriots. And so, he may have been on another team in between here, too. I'm trying to think. It just always seems like he was a decent enough player, even with the Steelers, but he was just a pain in the ass. Tampa, he had the rookie year with 1,000-yard season, but he wasn't like a big priority player. He had the 1 year with the Patriots before the Steelers, 7 touchdowns, 772 yards. Then he goes to the Steelers, and he has 65 carries, 266 yards in 11 games, 2 touchdowns. Okay. And then he complains and whines and cries and leaves. What? Did he leave the game early or just left the locker room? But that was against the Tennessee Titans when Bell had a career game.
Yep.
I think Bell was putting up, I thought I had the actual numbers, but Bell had like close to like a 200-yard game, I believe.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And he cried about it and left, and the team wasn't happy. And a lot of people say Mike Tomlin and company, they don't have any discipline with their teams or their players or whatever. And lo and behold, we've got a couple of them that we'll be mentioning. And they sent his ass packing. And in this game, let's see, I had the Bell stats. Yep, 33 carries, 204 yards, and a touchdown, and also 2 receptions for 18 yards. He was putting up massive numbers, and some people felt that, well, with Blount, you know what? Maybe they could have just they could have given the ball to him and not had Bell carry 33 times. But you don't know if somebody on the sideline was saying that they're record chasing, number chasing, incentive chasing. We don't know what was going on primarily. I just always saw this as crying about spilled milk. And then go running back to where you came from, incidentally, where they had a plethora of running back injuries and happened to need a guy like Blount in order to go and try and win another championship. That's what really stuck out to me as sucking about this whole situation.
Yeah, like LeGarrette Blount was a punk. I mean, he was a punk, and he had punk attitude all the way back from when he was in Oregon. He was thug life. And so the reason that I have a problem with this signing is not only did he have to have just pay no attention to anything that was said to him. Oh, I know Le'Veon Bell, but whatever, because I'm so good, I'm going to start, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter what you tell me now, because it's what's going to happen. And if you don't see that, then you're clearly wrong. Not that he would ever talk like that. But the other side of that equation is the Steelers had to know that he was a punk. And at some point, this was the guy who even Mike Tomlin could not keep under control. And at that point, you just said, yeah, thank you very much. We're all done with you.
Yeah, precisely. I got another one that's on here that cried about playing time, which is even even funnier. Morgan Burnett was signed in 2018, veteran from previously from the Green Bay Packers. Yep. And Morgan Burnett was signed because the Steelers were looking for a safety. And they ended up drafting Terrell Edmunds that same season. And Edmunds ends up playing a lot early on because Burnett he had some problems staying on the field. I remember asking a good friend of mine who was a Packers fan, and said, great player when healthy. And he had missed 3 games in 2013, missed a game 2014, missed 5 games the following season. 2016 missed 1. 2017, his final year with the Packers, he missed 4 games. He played both safety positions, and the Steelers are looking for safeties. They're still like biting and clawing at this point, trying to find an era replacement to Troy Polamalu. That's the reason Edmonds is not necessarily to be the next Troy, but brought on because they're hurting at the position, the Mike Mitchells. And I don't have Mike Mitchell on this list, by the way. I don't think Mike Mitchell was a bad free agent signing.
No,
I like
guy. Mike Mitchell.
Yeah. I think he did what was necessary. He wasn't what do you want to say, all pro material, but he wasn't like a bad signing either.
No, he wasn't.
I liked Mike Mitchell. I thought Mike Mitchell fit what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. Yeah. You like Mike? I was just watching these
Mike and Mike, yeah. Mike and Ike's. Although I don't really like the candies that much.
Mike and Ike's. My mom loves Mike and Ike's. And I was just watching what most people ignore is the 4th Indiana Jones movie, and he just said that quote, I like Mike because it's set in that time period. So I like Ike. I said Ike, not Mike. Mike, be like Mike. I don't know where we're going with this. Anyway, but he was active. He literally, let's see, played 40 snaps week 1, 52 snaps week 2. He wasn't in camp most of the time. Inactive for the next 4 games. He saw a lot of his playing time just dwindle down. He was inactive again week 12, so he missed 5 games with the Steelers. And then the offseason, he was begging to be traded because I think he signed a 2-year deal. It wasn't like a 1-year prove it. So I think they still had him under contract, if I recall correctly. And he was crying about he wasn't playing. They need to let him. He demanded his release. Dude, you were hurt. Lack of playing time. He just saw that he was losing his job to Edmonds is what was happening. Now he went over to the Browns, and he missed half of the season in 2019, the very next year when the Browns took him. And we knew we were doing this show back at that point. You could probably find in archives where we were like, yeah, that's probably not going to work out for you in Cleveland. He missed 24 out of 80 potential games in 5 seasons. That's over a quarter of the amount of games played. That's pretty poor. And after that attempt of playing and making a comeback in Cleveland, that's when his career ended after 10 years in the NFL. So he was also 30 years of age when he hung it up with the Browns. So, just another signing that was disappointing. Remember, these are disappointing. This isn't like the biggest busts or anything like that.
Right.
But, yeah, so Morgan Burnett didn't even show his photo. Talk about trying to find something obscure is finding a photo of Morgan Burnett. But the next guy on deck here, let's see, I think I have it. And it's just the perfect photo because what a showboat. This guy rubbed me such the wrong way. Lance Moore, he's another guy that was brought on that same year as Blount. And, he was part of that high-powered, vaunted offense with the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees, and he even had a 1,000-yard season a year removed before coming to the Steelers. And he was brought in as the replacement for Jericho Cotchery. If you remember, Jericho Cotchery was a good signing.
I like Jericho Cotchery. Jericho was the man.
Yeah, Jericho had 10 touchdowns that 1 year before, and then he left, and he went to the Panthers, I think.
Yes,
and
he
then,
did.
And people were all up in arms. How are we going to replace this type of production? And, well, it wasn't really wasn't Lance Moore because there was another guy that was drafted that year in 2014, wide receiver out of the 4th round, that started to get some PT about week 7 of that season. And as soon as he did, he was taking it to the house. He was making big plays, and that was the alien. That was Martavis Bryant. And just everything's in the rear view from there.
And by the way, since you brought him up, no.
Who?
No, Martavis. The answer is no. For everybody that has spent their time watching the XFL.
XFL. Oh, geez.
No.
What part of no don't you understand?
No.
I
loved Martavis Bryant. I loved Martavis. But no. That's no.
I know, and it's not like, as long as he's not betting on football, I might be okay now. But Martavis he's 31 now. I mean, good for him that he's playing. He still wants to be competitive and play in the NFL, but 31's that year where we say everybody drops off right there or right after. That's the cutoff. 31 years of age, the Baskin Robbins variety. And no. Did we say no?
We said
no.
The answer is no.
But we were talking about Lance Moore. And
no.
Maybe tickle me timbers here. Yeah, but he rubbed me the wrong way because what do you have, like 2 touchdowns a year? I remember the Steelers lost a really bad game at Cleveland that one year, the year he played, 2014. And there was like this late garbage time touchdown and he spikes the football in the end zone. And that wasn't the photo from that, but I mean, I guess you get hype playing. The game's competitive. It's emotional, what have you. But man, does that not rub you the wrong way? Everybody's looking at the scoreboard like, dude, what are you doing, man? The Steelers lost that game 31-10. It's just like, when did he score this touchdown? Just to put it into perspective, Lance Moore, 26-yard pass from Ben Roethlisberger. They were down 31-3 at this point, 2:36 to go in the game. And he goes and spikes the football. And that was just kind of crazy. He did score another touchdown a week later against the Houston Texans. This was 2014 was an up and down season where the Steelers were winning, losing. And then it's as this guy kind of came off the field, he never had a game with more than 2 catches. He had 14 total in 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. It wasn't like a huge signing, but he didn't fill Jericho Cotchery's role, and he lost his job to Martavis Bryant. So he was a disappointment, at least in my eyes, because that was somebody that I felt was going to make a bigger impact than they ended up making. So, that I guess that happens. He played one more year. He went to the Detroit Lions, and then poof, disappeared from the NFL. Who else we got left, Brian? We got some. I got one more. That's another Ryan Shazier replacement in 2018. I believe he's still kicking around the league, possibly too. I'm gonna look him up. It's John Bostic, and you may remember he was brought on. Just the Steelers. That was one of their free agents. I know they probably wanted to draft somebody that was going to be a replacement that year. He ended up playing in every single game, but he never really was like a major achiever. And yes, he's been 4 years now with the Washington Commanders. He played last year too. 5 starts, 15 games he appeared in. So he's still hanging around, but just more of
the mediocre
wasn't a
play.
fit for the Steelers. Yeah, wasn't a fit for the Steelers. Definitely could not fit that giant void with that Shazier left.
I mean, nobody ever thought he was really going to be Ryan Shazier, and my expectations for Bostic were so limited when he came in. I mean, I hoped he would be able to be adequate at best, right? And give you something. The role that they envisioned for him was not a fit for what his play style was. And it just didn't work out. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, he did give them, I hesitate to say quality snaps, but he gave them snaps, right? He gave them what he could. It just was never a match made in heaven for them. And yeah, I don't necessarily think it was a bad signing so much as it was just a disappointing signing. And so I agree with that because, of course, that's the title of this episode, the most disappointing Steeler free agent signings. And he was definitely disappointing. But I think it really was, it was never going to be, like, it was destined to be disappointing.
Yeah, it really was. He's playing time. He fell off of a cliff, right? He had the final 5 games of the season that year. He had 11 snaps in 3 of those games, 32 in another, which he played so about half of the game, and then a grand total of 2 snaps out of 66 in a Week 16 loss at the Saints. If you remember, that game was the Joe Hayden getting called for breathing on anyone, Alvin Kamara in particular. That was really bad one. So got one last one, and let's see how this one.
Is this a number that is less than 10 but more than 8?
Not more than 8. What jersey number?
I couldn't remember what his number is. I know who it's going to be, but I can't remember what his jersey number is.
Well, care to share? Go right ahead.
So, Mr. Ingram.
Sure is. And it's tough to put him in. I said I had this on the website as well as like a written article, and it was tough for me to just kind of say, because he was a free agent, but he wasn't a priority free agent.
No.
Excuse me. He wasn't signed in March or April or May or June. He went like 4 months, and that's because he was injured. He was injured a few times over the last few seasons he was in the league, right? And he was with the then San Diego Chargers, then the Los Angeles Chargers. So the first 5 years in the league, as they were San Diego, another 4. So 9 years. He comes to the Steelers. He's age 32 at this point. And he had missed, let's see, quick math, 9 games the previous season, 3 the year before, and then it played in every single one of them between 2015 and 2018. From 2017, 2018, 2019, he was a Pro Bowl player. Take that for what you will. It's really hard to say Pro Bowl, but I'd say Pro Bowl is at least top 20% at this point, unless, I don't know, some of it's a joke like Tyler Huntley. So he comes to the Steelers. The day before training camp, they sign him. Why? Because TJ Watt is going to be doing his quiet quit, sit in, not going to participate in training camp deal. And knowing this, they need a veteran player because Alex Highsmith is just entering year 2. Right. And there's no other depth also. They were being criticized that they had no outside linebacker, edge rusher depth. So let's bring in a guy. Let's see if he's healthy enough now. After, I don't know if he had surgery or whatever the cause was, that he was sitting on the shelf and nobody was interested. But it's another one of those like Blount, not necessarily like Lance Moore, but Blount and Burnett. Like Burnett probably even more so thought he was going to be the starter and probably should have been. Yeah. And then they go and draft a guy and it probably pisses him off. But in Blount's case, and here in Ingram's case, what did you think was going to happen? A lot of people, you had the talking heads that were on NFL Network, ESPN, or whatever, that were talking over the summer, and they were talking about the pair of Watt and Ingram. And I'm like, are you forgetting that they drafted Alex Highsmith? I know he came out of Charlotte, that's had a football program for like 2 years before that or whatever, just joking, kidding aside, not a powerhouse college football program. And then you had, and he's entering his second year. And they had drafted him as a potential Bud Dupree replacement. But Melvin Ingram comes in. What do you think? Are you going to play over Watt? And you know that they just drafted a guy. Now, you are a veteran, and maybe you think you're going to get all this special treatment and whatnot. He played quite a bit. He had a lot of snaps. Because TJ Watt got hurt at one point, but they were playing all 3 of them. Not the home opener, but season opener against Buffalo. They had all 3 of the guys on the field at one point, and you were really excited about this. Then all of a sudden, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't get after the quarterback. A lot of the same problems we even saw last year, and Melvin Ingram was not the answer. No. Then he pretty much gets sat down, and what? Alex Highsmith has 2.5 sacks against the Seahawks, and he cries and demands a trade. And everybody gets in a tizzy over it, and they sent him to Kansas City, where he had 2 half-sack games. He had a couple of easy ones in playoffs. Roll my eyes. Like the people that are just like, well, look at the impact he's making with Kansas City. And then Kansas City was just like, see you later, homie. They didn't bring him back either after that. And he played Miami last year. He got back up to 6 sacks. He was fully healthy, played yada, yada. But what's he up to now? Like he's like 33 years old, about to be 34 here. His birthday is in April. Yeah. So he's going to be 34 just around the corner here. I don't know if he has much of an NFL future ahead of him or what plans. are in store, but he's a shell of the Pro Bowl player that he was, and he was brought on just to simply be depth, and then cried about it and cried his way out of town, and that just doesn't sit well with me, and that's why I think he is a disappointing free agent signing of the last decade.
We want volunteers, not hostages.
Absolutely, and people make fun of Tomlin for that, but it's kind of the same discipline thing. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We know that something similar happened with James Harrison, and he was unhappy with playing time. But we're going to tell you it's the same thing that we're going to be talking about a lot over the next couple weeks with free agency around the corner. You see Taylor Lewan just got released by the Titans. That's not the future. You don't sign guys that are like 32 years old
and have had 2 ACL tears and can't make it through a season. And what the hell's the point?
No, and that's the same thing. Like, this is like, that would be like a depth signing.
What school did he come from? Remind me.
What school did he come from? Was he the university up north?
Something tells me. I can't remember.
He was.
I thought.
Usually when guys play in the pros, we're already past that. Or, would you bring Devin Bush back?
No.
Because of what college he...
No, not anymore. No. Yes, the college plays into it now because you sucked for 3 years. 1 year you were good. 3 years you sucked. I'll give you 1 year you were hurt, but you didn't come back from it. And no. So now, no, Michigan, you're out. No, the hell with you.
That's pretty funny, man. And that's just one of the examples where it's like, who thought? Did you think Melvin Ingram was going to be whoever, big signing or whatever? I don't. And it's just, it's one of those names that were added. And much like, I didn't have Trey Turner on here too, but we might as well mention him. He's pretty disappointing as well. He was a former Pro Bowl, maybe 5 times with the Panthers, and I know he got hurt at the end of that, and he was available. And David DeCastro, the same thing happens like in the same day.
Yeah.
They bring in Ingram, they find out Watt is going to be disputing and not practicing or whatever, and wants the big contract that he deserved. Okay, and so they bring in Ingram, and then they bring in Turner, and it's like, okay, and then they trade for Joe Schobert. Now, Schobert wasn't a free agent signing, but when you talk about like that group of moves that were made,
did not work out.
Boy, they were duct taping everything together and trying to piecemeal it, and that just, none of it worked out. And you combine that was 2021 with the, aging Ben Roethlisberger with half an elbow, and you lost players like Hilton and Dupree. The cap went down, and you're really trying to piece this together, and you draft Kendrick Green and Dan Moore Jr. as well. And somehow that team still made the postseason. I just it's crazy to look back on when you look at like those storylines from like a year ago or even 2 years ago versus even right now. Like last year's stories, the headlines were, who are they going to find to replace Ben Roethlisberger? What are they going to do with the offensive line? Don't forget the secondary. Edmonds was a free agent. Joe Hayden probably wasn't coming back. They still didn't have like Hilton, Ahkello Witherspoon, maybe also free agent. Stephon Tuitt, was he going to play? There's a lot of crazy stuff when you look back just 1 year, and that's why you can't get into too much turmoil or panic over what the team ends up ultimately doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Are they going to dip their toe into free agency? Yes. I don't know how deeply at this point. Again, as we keep saying, this is the wild card of wild card years because it's not the same folks. We don't know how they're going to decide to play things. And they got a little less hamstrung right now because they don't have this gigantic Ben Roethlisberger contract sitting on their head. They may be able to actually free up money and spend it on a free agent. But let's be fair, that's just not the heredity of this team. That's not in their genes. So despite the fact that there's some new guys in the front office, I think they're going to stick to trying to build through the draft the way they always have and keep and maintain the players that matter. Now that doesn't, and offset that or augment that through free agency. It means I'm not going to overpay for a guy because everybody else wants him, because there is no one guy out there in free agency that's the answer to their problems.
I was going to ask you, I mean, it feels like the team is a blueprint of Chuck Noll. It doesn't matter. You go back to like Tom Donahue and guys being, I guess, not a general manager, but vice president or whatever. Do they hire Omar Khan and Anthony Weidl without asking them these questions of if you're following the blueprint, the foundation that this franchise was built upon? Or are you going to go out and try and be like the Jaguars and spend a boatload of money? Even look at the Patriots. Like, they spent all that money the previous year, the tight ends, whatnot, and then they draft Mac Jones, and that's not really come together either. So I just don't see, when have the Steelers ever really made a big splash?
Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Go.
Say whatever you'd like.
Go, boy.
Oh man. So just on that note though, like, who have they really ever signed that was a big free agent splash? I mean, they've made some trades. Getting Jerome Bettis, and Jerome Bettis was damaged goods, but that was one hell of a trade. I mean, Larry Foote probably wasn't considered, or not Larry Foote, I'm sorry, Larry Foote's counterpart, Potsy, James Ferrier.
One of the very best free agent signings ever.
But not like a big splash in the pool.
Yeah, it's not, they didn't jump out there and go, whoa, we're going to get Tremaine. Look, and I would love the Bills not to re-sign Tremaine Edmunds and for Tremaine Edmunds to come here. I love Tremaine Edmunds. I would love that to happen. That's not going to.
No, I don't think they target any of these big names. Kevin Green, was he a big name at this point?
Another guy was kind of a big name. He was
always good no matter where he went.
He was kind of a big name, but he was also a nomad that just kind of went from place to place to place.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what I mean. Like, they don't go after very, very big names in free agency.
Yeah.
So it would still surprise me. They don't have a ton of cap room right now. Teams are making moves. So we'll see what happens with this, like William Jackson III, Mitch Trubisky. You know what? There's the final question. There were two things that came up that I saw in the last week, probably from one of the beat writers, Mark Cabali, Jerry Dulac. Trying to remember who said it. But one was that Mason Rudolph, depending on what happens with Trubisky, Mason Rudolph could come back.
Yep.
And, we talked about whether or not that was a deal or not. Go back to a later episode. We pretty much feel that 99% chance he's out of here. Why would he want to come back unless he felt? We don't know. Behind closed doors.
What happens? If Mason goes out amongst the world and people go, no, you suck, I don't want you. Right? And nobody gives him any kind of offer. Nobody is willing to consult with him. And then the Steelers dump Trubisky. Then he might go, hey, remember me? I know the system. Would you mind? I wouldn't mind coming back. I love you guys. You're the best.
And the Steelers probably wouldn't mind. He has some starting experience. He's not going to give you the same exact things, but geez, Trubisky. All the talk about keeping Trubisky, but then I think it was Pony to put it out there because, of course, it had to be because of the clickbait nature of it. Would you trade Mitch Trubisky for like a mid-round draft pick? I'd trade him for any draft pick because you clear that $8 million. Yeah, if you're going to clear that $8 million releasing him, why not get something for it on top of it?
You know my feelings about 5th, 6th, and 7th round draft pick choices, right? I would trade him for the rights to sign a priority undrafted agent over the team that took him. That's how, okay, look, you want a guy
anything
that we
you
want.
Can get.
Let us sign that guy and you can have Mitch Trubisky. Okay, whatever you could get, a 7th round pick. Hell, let's go back in time and trade me a 15th round pick from 1973. Okay?
Merrill Hodge.
Yeah.
Merrill Hodge was drafted in, oh, geez. I'm sorry. He got a sore throat, man. Let me see. What round? Oh, he was round 10. I think somebody went a little bit even later than him. That was notable in those 80s. I always joke around about that, but yeah, round 10, pick 261, which would have been Brock Purdy territory, like right now. So you talk about a Mr. Irrelevant, but that 1987 draft, I wonder how many rounds that actually went. when they used to do that. I'm going to find that out. But yeah, I would trade. I'd probably trade Trubisky for like a pack of trading cards, gum, both cigarettes. I don't even smoke.
Liquid gels, and I'll take it. Just give me this bottle, and you can have Mitch Trubisky. I'm good.
It's pretty ignorant of us compared to how we usually are talking. 12 rounds in that draft, by the way, 335 picks. And that also had a supplemental draft, which is pretty interesting if you know your history. In 1987? Brian Bosworth, Dan Saleo, and then Chris Carter. Supplemental draft with the Philadelphia Eagles. Turns out to be a Hall of Famer. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
How that ended up turning out. But Bosworth, man, and also the guy with the shades and the like a movie that wasn't all that great. But
he might have had a mohawk too.
I believe Bosworth.
Boz had a mohawk.
We could definitely find that out, and then we'll we're up against it, man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Just remember all the the crazy hairdos and things of that nature. So there you go. There's a Bosworth photo for you. Not Boswell, Bosworth.
Yeah, that's not a mohawk. That's just.
Oh well, he had all kinds of them though. Like the crazy. I like these. Just keep getting better. Like there you go, flat top, looking like Guile out of Street Fighter 2.
No, you know who that is? That's Ivan Drago.
Oh, I will break you. I will break you. And I don't know. I can't find the ones with the right, like that type of era of shades, but I got him with the aviators, looking a little more like he belongs in Top Gun. But that's the
haircut. Yeah, he didn't have a mohawk. He had whatever the hell that is. What's the? I will run away. The bird song people.
The flock of seagulls.
Flock of seagulls. That's it. He's Ivan Drago and Flock of Seagulls guy. If they had a child together, his name was Brian Bosworth.
Party. Isn't that like the mullet, the party in the back type thing?
Yeah.
But it's also shaved.
Yeah. Like it had this weird
rat tail
dip in the middle. Like when you looked at it from the front, it was odd.
Wow. That's just reminiscent. So, Brian, thanks for taking some time out of your schedule, man. We'll have to do this again. Put a bow on the show. I know we talk about a whole lot of nothing. There's a whole lot of nothing to talk about, and we'll continue to do so, hopefully next week. So we'll see if I can find Flash at his whereabouts. I'm about to put him on a milk carton. Do they still do that?
I know. He tweeted this morning. He was very excited that Kenny Pickett and the receivers are practicing in Texas.
Yeah, that's who wouldn't get excited about that? They want more of that. That's good content, as we call it. So, folks, that'll do it for us here at Steel City Underground Podcast. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a rating and review wherever you are. Thank you for watching or listening to our show. And until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we will catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.